In this video, I want to show you how to animate vector graphics based on SVGs in SwiftUI. And for this, I'm going to use a neat little tool called SVGShaper. I have set up an example graphic in Figma. I like to use Figma to export SVG exports assets because it has a clean SVG export. One thing to note about this here is check the include ID attribute. It's not enabled by default, and when it's enabled, you will get named attributes. I've set up all names for all the elements in the SVG, and I will export the root element, which is in a frame. And I will animate two things. I will make a drag gesture that move the eyes, and I will animate the mouse from happy to sad, because that was like an interesting technique I wanted to learn. Can I change paths using an animation? And the answer is yes, you can, and that's quite nice to get interesting animation effects. So now we have this SVG as a starting point ready here. And one thing that is tricky is the coordinate systems in the SVG. For the mouse animation, I need those coordinates to be relative to the center point of the mouse, like here, but currently it's relative to the document root. And I found no way to do this in Figma. I found a way to do this in Inkscape, but Inkscape today would crash a lot. So I needed another workaround, and I will do this manually. Now, there is a helpful tool for this, like the SVG Path Editor. It's a little bit tinkerish, but it works reliable. I will insert the coordinates of the path here, and I can see now the coordinate root here. So we need to look at the coordinates and move it accordingly. And I can translate it here using these values. And I think I've used another file before, because now the coordinates are different. I'm jumping between two files. This is now correct, and the other one I can tell a little bit from the values. I'll just move it a little bit. No, maybe -10. So now I have a path relative to centered correctly around this point. And I can even use relative coordinates here for the coordinates. It doesn't matter, but it might be easier to read. So now if I put it in like this, the mouse would be up here. And now I can have a transform element in the document on the node that says move it down again. I need to tinker with it a little bit. So now I have relative coordinates, and we'll clean up the SVG. Otherwise, I don't need this group. SVGShaper would generate another view otherwise for it. And now the nice thing about SVGShaper, this is a tool that you can get from the App Store, is you can generate SVG code from SwiftUI code from an SVG using this tool. It's a little bit like if you've done iOS programming back in the day of Objective-C. It's a little bit like paint code. You get code generated for the content in the SVG. And the nice thing about this is now easy to tune. This is really open to any kind of modification based on animations that you want to do. So let's get this code inserted in our project, rename it a little bit. This is like the face view, and I will just format it using Swift formatters. So I have it consistent with my own formatting style. And then let's see what else. I've prepared a little bit the gestures because I want to focus on the animations today. I will insert the face view now that I've just generated using the SVGShaper, and I will use the resizable modifier. This is generated by SVGShaper, and say scale to fit. I'll set the content shape so I can click it anywhere, not only I can tap anywhere. I have a state variable prepared here that has two parameters, one for the coordinate of the eye, the offset, and one for the happy attribute. When it's tapped, I toggle the happy attribute. When I drag, I set the translation of the gesture to the eye parameter, but with in a scaled version. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's have a look at if the SVG is correctly displayed. This works. And now the trick is to pass in parameters to the SVG and to animate them. The eyes are pretty easy. I will just pass the params to the generated view. And it's a little bit, it requires a little bit busy work because I need to pass them through, and it's as many views and shapes, and they are embedded, so I cannot, like in this, I cannot embed those. I cannot access those. I need to pass them through, but it's pretty doable, and I quite like it that it's a separate shape and a separate view for every element in the original document. So for the eyes, let's find the pupils. This is just a circle, and this is easy to tune because it places the circle using a padding here. And we can now, I think I can even access the params here and just add them to the coordinates of not the eye, but of the pupil. So this is really open to messing around with the SVG content now because it's just SwiftUI code. I don't need the original SVG file anymore. So we need to pass this resizable modifier is implemented SwiftUI style, so we need to pass through the params. And for the preview, I also need to generate a default value for it. And now we should get nice interactive eyes based on the gesture. So I will keep it like this. For the example, it's pretty clear you can do whatever you want with the SVG content. The other thing that I wanted to do is like the animation of the mouse. So let's go to the place where it inserts the mouse into the document, and we will tell it if we are happy or not. This is here. So we will have an attribute happy for this. And in the pass, I will do the transformation using and a scale parameter that scales the pass on the y-axis. Because I have the coordinate root now in the middle, that's enough to make the mouse from happy to go sad. So we will pass this scale based on the happy parameter. By default it's happy, and we flip it around if we are not happy. And we need to pass it here. And now when I tap it, it flips around. That's pretty nice already, but I want to animate this change now. And the first thing that's needed for this is the usual SwiftUI animation thing. I'll use the value-based version here, where I say I want a snappy animation for the parameter happy. And when this changes now, it should actually change the it should animate this change, but for a pass, the pass is now changed using this scale parameter. I need to do something else because paths don't animate by default. You need to do something special here, and it's a little bit a funny protocol on SwiftUI. Shape already implements this, and it's called animatable. You can return animatable data from this. And I was very surprised by this protocol the first time I've seen it. And the thing that you need to do is pretty easy, but to be honest, I have not found a good understanding of why this works, but I'll tell you anyway how it works. So we return all the attributes that are animatable. It could be like here, a single CG float value, but it could also be multiple ones, like in a tuple. And this is a computed property, and I return the current value that I have in the getter. And now the very surprising thing for me was like, I also need to implement the setter. And because it's a mutable property in a struct, I can also like change myself based on the new value. And this works. Like have a look at, I need to make it var, of course, but let's have a look at the resulting animation. So this now does a proper key path animation. It just doesn't flip it just around, but it really animates the control points and everything. So it's a nice animation. And like this is, it mixes like getting the current state of like my points. Like it will get the -1 or the 1, and then I get the values. Like if I add a print here to see these values, it will call me with these transitional values. And that this is mixed in one interface, like in one property, it's a little bit scary to me, but like, yeah, it seems like the thing that's needed to get an animation for a shape, and it's a little bit quirky, but it works nice.